bunch of morons!
Why, hello YouTube! Greetings from the Lazy Eyebrow Reviewer, and today I'm doing my first top 10 list for this channel. So without further ado, the top 10 controller schemes for Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo Wii U! But wait, I hear your nerdy little voice inside your head saying, yeah, that's right, I'm like Charles Xavier. There's only 8 ways to play Smash. Well, yes, there were. But I'll both get into it and elaborate. So to start off with, the announcer guy was right. The game has more ways to play than ever before. In fact, more ways to play than any game ever. And I can't say enough how grateful I am for that. So let's dive in with... I'm sure everyone saw this one taking the lowest spot on our list. It's the Wii Remote. Just the plain old Wii Remote. It's pretty basic. Like, literally, it's the most basic thing you can play with. And that sucks. You have your 1 and 2 buttons, that's great, but there's no jump button, so try and do Mega Man's strong up A. The only trigger is a B button, which wasn't designed for sideway use, and since it's the only trigger, grabbing is limited to Shield A. I mean, if it were possible, I'd rather play with an NES controller, mainly because it's more comfy. But the lack of buttons renders this thing unplayable. Anyway, it's honestly one of the worst control schemes, and I'd rather forgot its existence. Still keeping with the Wii Remote is its first extension, the Nunchuck. And mine's been customized to look like jazz. Hooray! So the Wii Remote Nunchuck isn't the worst, as it at least has a joystick, but as far as joystick controller schemes go, it's by far the worst one of them. I honestly don't think I'd mind it as much though if you had a second button beside the A button, at least then it could be tolerable. However though, it doesn't, and therefore your specials are allocated to the right trigger, or B button if you will. I will give it though that the control stick on the Nunchuck has the octagon. By octagon, I mean it has the indents where the stick will semi-lock when you're hitting left or left and up. I love this idea and you have no idea how necessary it is for Smash. So many times I've met my demise because apparently it wasn't over enough and I was going down instead, and well, there goes my recovery. Falcon kick to the ground. The thing is, newcomers to Brawl used to swear by this control scheme, saying it was the most comfortable and easiest to use, and also that if Brawl were meant to be played with a Gamecube controller, Brawl would have been on a Gamecube. Oddly enough, all those people I knew who used to use this scheme have all moved on to control schemes that are higher up on this list. The 3DS, while I do admit this was a cool idea for 2 reasons, I strongly despise using it. I didn't really even enjoy it between October and November, which is probably why I didn't play this thing often. Side note, the 3DS says I played 492 battles, both on and offline. That's about 10 cents a match. I don't know, I probably got my money's worth out of this thing. Anyway, by connecting the 3DS to the Wii U and connecting the Wii U to the 3DS, you can use it as a controller. I see this being great for 2 reasons. 1, people new to the system are probably used to this control scheme and probably prefer it. Good for them, I'm not one of them. Number 2, people who weren't able to beat the odds and get one of the laughably small amount of Gamecube controller adapters made can now use this for 8-player. Again, I'm not one of those people either. So why don't I like this thing? This thing is thin. Way thinner than an NES controller, and that makes it hard to hold in my big hands. I got cramps so many times in my hands, my thumbs would lock up sometimes, and just in general, I was no good at the control scheme. And the circle pad! I cannot tell you enough how annoying this stupid thing is. Slide, don't push, no octagon, makes for some of the most annoying Smash gameplay there is. The Wii U Gamepad. Man, I hate this thing. Like, don't get me wrong, this thing is great for games like Pikmin, Nintendo Land, or Mario 3D World or something. Just anything but this game. I don't like its bulk, it feels like I'm holding a brick. I love bulk, but this is too much. The distance between triggers is overly frustrating for this game. It's easily half a second more just to move your finger from one trigger to the bumper, just to grab something. Yes, it can all be adjusted in the control scheme to be left and right for different things, but in general, this control scheme doesn't work all that well. One great thing about it though is you can use it as a second screen. This is great for people like my wife who have nearsightedness. She uses the thing all the time when she gets tired of wearing her glasses. So that's about the only positive thing I can really see about it for Smash Bros. Moving on. Number 7 on this list are the PlayStation 1 and 2 controllers. Now we're getting into actual controllers. And the only one on this list that isn't for a Nintendo console. Using the N64 Classic Linker or any PlayStation to GameCube adapter, you can connect a PlayStation controller into your GameCube adapter for your Wii U. If you're a die-hard Sony fan, you might like this. Although if you're a die-hard Sony fan, chances are you're not playing this game, but defending PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale Super Power Ninja Turbo Nia Ultra Hyper Mega Multi Alpha Meta Extra Uber Prefix Remix HD, and how we immature Nintendo fanboys obviously don't understand the refined culture of your fighting experience that is clearly not a ripoff of anything but a fully fleshed out original idea. Regardless, you can use this controller option, and I for one don't like it. I've never been a fan of this controller and how Sony pretty much duct taped control sticks to the bottom after realizing Nintendo had come out with a joystick, but now I'm ranting. I mainly don't like it because there's no octagon for the sticks. The sticks are in an awkward position, and I've never particularly enjoyed the way PlayStation's buttons felt. But it's there if you like it, and if you want it. Alright, top 5. Let's kick things off with the Classic Controller. This controller has a wire poking out the bottom for some reason, otherwise it plugs into the Wii Remote. This controller scheme isn't overly bad, but it's mediocre at best. The way it's shaped doesn't really feel all that aerodynamic, and like it's always slipping out of my hands. This makes holding the control sticks a bit of a pain, but it's got the octagon, so I can't fault it for that. What I can fault it for though is for having its ZR and ZL buttons as little nubs like the new 3DS did. That's bothersome, and unless you fiddle with the controls, it's a pain to grab people. Besides all that, this thing reminds me heavily of the Super Nintendo controller. In fact, I wish the Super Nintendo controller could be possible to use, like I did in Mario Kart 8. Check the link in the description to see me playing Mario Kart 8 with a Super Nintendo controller, if you haven't already. In short, the Classic Controller was okay. It was meant for Virtual Console, not so much for N64 Virtual Console, but it gets the job done for Smash. The Classic Controller Pro. Why is this not in the same spot as number 5? Because I like this better. This thing comes with actual handles so you can hold on to it. No more using just your thumbs, index, and middle to barely hold on to a controller that doesn't feel like it wants to be held. It's a very comfortable controller that I highly recommend for the N64 Virtual Console. Playing F-Zero X, a game which required meticulous precision, was near impossible on the original Classic Controller. Otherwise, everything is practically the same, save for the trigger and Z triggers. Those seem to be reversed from what's the norm these days. The GameCube had the L and R on the bottom, so did the Xbox. These upper ones are like your second set, but for some reason Nintendo thought the second set should be on the bottom, much like Sony's stupid idea way back in the day. So that was number 4. If you have to pick between the Classic and the Classic Pro, go for the Pro. It's got the octagon, it feels comfortable, and overall it's a good controller. Just mind the anchor. Number 3, the Wii U Pro Controller. This thing has got to be one of the most comfortable controllers out there. I've seen people give it flack for its right thumbstick placement, but I think it makes a ton of sense, especially for shooters. A disclaimer, I don't actually play shooters, but I can see the controller's merit in them. For Smash though, this is the controller I went to when I didn't have adapters. This is possibly my favorite 8th gen console controller, because Xbox feels stupid, especially the thumbsticks, and Sony thought a touchpad would be neat for some reason. For Smash though, this thing is awesome. Buttons feel solid, control stick has the perfect amount of tension, the thing is super comfortable. The only thing annoying is the buttons take after the Classic Controller Pro and reverse the triggers on you. Probably the most annoying thing if I forgot to put my name on. All of a sudden I'm in Glory 1v1 trying to grab roll around people. It doesn't quite work that way. The N64 Controller. Maybe I'm just weird, but I love this thing when I was 14, I love it now. It just felt perfect in my hands and I had so many hours of fun with it. Even now with my Donkey Kong-like hands, this thing just feels great. Using the N64 Classic Linker, this thing plugs into your GameCube ports and lets you fire up some classic 1999 controller action. The Linker also has 2 options of control style, one where the C buttons act as C-stick inputs, so your C buttons are your smash attacks, which would mean tap jump has to be on because it eliminates a jump button. or the other way where the C buttons become X and Y up here. I prefer that because C-stick smashing is for wimps. Duh. Otherwise, the Z and R triggers work the same way as they did in Smash 64, and overall I love this thing to bits. So why is it only number 2? Well, this joystick is garbage and doesn't hold a candle to today's standards. However, I will be getting myself an N64 joystick replacement that uses today's standards, and then yeah, probably this thing would be number 1 on this list. So this being number 2, this can only mean that... Number 1. Everyone saw this coming, I'm sure. Using one of the laughably small amount of Gamecube controller adapters that were out there, or using a Gamecube controller adapter that plugs into your remote, we can use a Gamecube controller for Smash. By far, the best controller option there is for Smash. There's just something about this controller that feels like it was designed specifically for Smash Brothers. Think about it. Melee was one of their launch titles. In fact, Sakurai has even said Melee was the game that was meant to showcase everything the GameCube could do better than the N64. From its intro, to its speed, to its mechanics, to the amount of stuff added, this was the debut title that showed off that the GameCube was powerful. And that power would have meant nothing without a suitable controller. So, presenting to you, the GameCube Controller, Super Smash Bros. Limited Edition. A button is your biggest. You're going to be using it quite a lot. Anything else you want to do is right next door. Special down there, jump up there, your standard triggers do your shielding, Z button for your grabbing, and if that's too hard to get to, adjust it in control so that R trigger is grab. This controller is super comfortable and is all around my other favorite controller ever. N64 right close behind. Heck, it might even be my favorite controller once I get a better joystick, but for now, GameCube it is. It's even the favorite of those people I mentioned before who used to say Wii Remote and Nunchuck was the pinnacle of Smash Bros. Control. That's how good it is. So that's been my top 10 control scheme for Super Smash Bros. 4 for the Nintendo Wii U. I hope you enjoyed and feel free to tell me your favorite at the bottom below. Ta-ra!